Welcome back for our Heart of the High Plains series. I'm Princess Bryant, and today I'm joined with Opportunity School. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So first, let's talk about Opportunity School. What is it exactly?
So, Opportunity School is a local nonprofit. We were started back in 1969 as part of a Sunday school class at First Presbyterian Church. They were reading a book that focused on, as you grow in your faith, what does that look like and how you serve your community? So, this group of young parents at the time, back in the late 1960s, went out and researched different needs in our community. And one of the things that they learned about is that families, low income families, there were not a lot of preschool options for their children. And so they wanted to start a preschool that served low income families and gave those children the best start possible. And so that's how we were started. We are still doing that same mission today.
Yeah.
And we have two campuses here in Amarillo, one that shares space with First Presbyterian Church, and then our Edwards campus out on South Osage. And so we provide high quality early childhood education, but we also have a two-generational approach. So it's what we do in the classroom with children ages 6 weeks to before they go to kindergarten, and also how we come alongside families. And we work with families to help them set goals, achieve things that they want in their family, and also help encourage them in being their child's best teacher, because we know that a child is continually learning at home and in school. And so we want that is equally as important in our mission.
And you kind of already touched on it. You guys focus on low income families.
We do.
Tell me, why is it important to get those children on track before they even enter into the school building?
Yeah. So a lot of we know that a lot of children that come from low income families start school behind their more affluent peers, and so the data, that's one of the reasons there's programs like Head Start and Early Head Start. Because we know that those families are, maybe mom's working 2 or 3 jobs and she doesn't have as much time to read to her child. And so we want to support those families and support those parents. 80%, almost 90% of our families are single parent households. So we really come alongside families in that way and give a high quality learning experience for their child, but also support those working parents from a child care standpoint. And so that is our mission. That hasn't changed since 1969. And that's an area that we feel like the more that we can help young children get a great start to their education, that pays off for decades down the road. So that early start, when 80% of our brain is being wired, that's when we really want to be intentional about our learning and care.
I think also that piece as far as promoting education with our families also said a lot of our families, our moms or dads are going to school also. So, a lot of them are working, but a lot of them are working towards their education. So having somewhere where they can bring their child where they feel safe and they're able to move forward with their education. We also promote education with our teachers and our staff, that a lot of our teachers are also going to school to continue their education. So promoting education in all of those areas is really important to us.
And tell me how you guys are able to see these kids kind of flourish when they first walk into Opportunity School till when they're leaving.
I think that the biggest piece for us is that we love to be able to get children in, like Jill said, at 6 weeks old. So we have them as an infant and able to really provide continuity of care for them so that they're able to stay with that same teacher day in and day out, for really that ideally first 3 years of their life. And so, we're able to provide a lot of structure, a lot of security when they're ready, when they turn 3, and then they're able to also then move into our preschool classrooms. We also still at that point have lower ratios, but our curriculum is continuous. So we use the same curriculum in our infant toddler classrooms that we do in our preschool classrooms. We do home visits, we do parent conferences, so we're promoting the same pieces in our infant toddler classrooms, but then also through our preschool classrooms. But like I said, as they're ready to move into our preschool classrooms, they are able to do that. So they really have a good foundation and a secure base from the time they start with us, ideally at 6 weeks, until they transition to kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. And I think just some of the success stories, you know, having such a long track record, you know, we have community leaders and bankers and people in our community that are teachers now, or they're doctors, or they're business people in our community who got their start at Opportunity School. And you know, we know now, because we have a better understanding of how the human brain develops, that how important those early years are. And so, you know, one of the things that we may not see the benefits when they go to kindergarten always, or when they, but we talk to parents and they were like, oh my gosh, my child had such a better start to kindergarten. They were already doing this or already doing that, compared to children who maybe didn't have a preschool experience or hadn't been in organized childcare before. And so, you know, it's something that's very individualized. We also serve children who have special needs.
Yeah.
They may have a developmental delay, or they may have a situation where, you know, it's just they don't do as well in they do better when they're in a classroom with fewer children, and they make such great improvements. So our goal, we know the more that we can do in those early days,
Yeah.
the better off that child is going to be. And in sometimes we get services in place for those families that carry them into public school, because then they start getting those supports earlier on. And so we know that makes a big difference in children's lives, and it's helpful for parents who are juggling a lot of things, and they maybe don't know all the questions to ask, so we can help them with that.
And kind of circling back, we talked about lower income families and how sometimes their children could be behind that curve when they first enter school. Why is that exactly that is seen?
Well, I think, you know, there's been a lot of research done, and it has to do with, you know, maybe reading at home. You know, maybe they don't have books at home. We know that that's a big determinant of, you know, language and vocabulary. I think it's just, you know, it's the focus on education and the time of the parents. So, you know, I don't have any of those studies I can cite off the bat, but there's definitely been a lot of research that shows that, you know, children of lower income families sometimes don't start out on par educationally with their more affluent peers.
And a lot of times there are just additional stressors.
Absolutely,
in that home.
yes.
Like I said, we also have family services coordinators that work really closely with our families to set goals with our families, to help if there is a need, you know, if it's a electricity need, or if it is, you know, food, that kind of thing. So anything that we can do to lower that stress for that family. And that's not just low income, you know, children.
Right.
I mean, anytime you can lower stress in a family, that is going to make that situation stronger for the whole family and that child. So definitely pulling those pieces in where we're building really close relationships with that family can decrease that family stress, which is always going to help that child academically.
And you touched on the curriculum a little earlier, how it differs just slightly in pre-K versus when they first start and stuff. Tell me a little bit more about that curriculum and what they're learning.
Like I said, we use the same curriculum. So we use a program called Creative Curriculum and Teaching Strategies. But it does differ in what it looks at, you know, because definitely as far as, you know, our infant classrooms, we are, you know, it's a little bit less structured, you know, but we are working on the same skills, whether they are 6 weeks old or whether they are 5 years old. You know, we're working to build strong language skills. Building language skills in an infant looks very different than building language skills and improving those language skills in a 5-year-old, but we're still working on building language. You know, we're working on physical skills. looks very different in a child that's just starting to crawl as, a child who is hopping and really trying to define a little bit those skills and perfect those skills. And so I said we're looking at all of those developmental areas and domains. It just looks very different in an infant classroom than it does in a preschool classroom where you have 4-year-olds.
And one of the things that we know is this curriculum, there's lots of different options, but this curriculum lines up with what those learning objectives are when children get to public school. So it's aligned with what the state of Texas, says that they need to be learning in kindergarten and in first grade. And so we just become part of that learning process. The other thing that I think, in addition to the curriculum, is that our teachers are really specialists for their age group. Our infant and toddler teachers will be with that same group of kids from the time they start until the time that they're in pre-K. They go to pre-K. And so that continuity of care that Leslie mentioned, that is also learning. Those teachers become specialists for those age groups. So
And
we've
for the
got
children.
for the children, we've got infant and toddler specialists and we've got pre-K specialists, we really focus the training for those teachers on that age group as well. So everybody learns differently. Children learn differently and develop differently, and it's the same for adults, right? So we have to incorporate those same strategies as we're helping our teachers grow and learn and perfect in their craft.
And you mentioned the teachers and how they're a constant factor in these children's lives. Like you mentioned earlier, they have stressors. They have other things going on in life. Tell me how that constant factor kind of helps them grow and learn.
Well, one of the things that we know about the developing brain is that, attachment and having consistency in our routines and in the people that we interact with is really important. We know that children that have that in their life at an early age, their brains develop in a more healthy way than if they're with a different caregiver every day or they don't have the same schedule every day. We have children that have experienced trauma. And so, excuse me. And so having that continuity in their classrooms and working with parents on those routines, it just makes it just more calm and feel more safe for those children, right? Because they know what to expect every day. And that's something that we really talk about, just between home and school, having that partnership so that child, is not nervous about coming to school.
Yeah.
They know who they're going to see. They get excited about coming to school. We have children that cry when they leave at the end of the day because they feel safe. They feel loved. They know that they are in a good place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And community partners. You guys talked about family support services. I know WT comes out and help you guys as well.
Yeah.
Talk about that help that you guys get for your mission.
So I think that, to me, that's one of the most important and, for me, the most exciting strengths that I think Opportunity School has is that, from our earliest days, Opportunity School didn't try to be all things to all families, but we build partnerships with other agencies that are specialists in their own right. And so I think one of the things that we do is before we might, I always say that, we're not the program that's going to come up with the big new program every year. Because we feel strongly that doing things well and deeply is really important, and we look to other community partners that may have a specialization in some area. When we have families that have food insecurity, we have a partnership with the High Plains Food Bank. When we are looking for mental health support or other kinds of a therapy or training support, we have relationships with the Turn Center. We have relationships with other helping agencies in the community, family support services. We do a parent cafe program with them. So again, it's sometimes it's harder, right? Because you
Yeah.
got to work at those relationships. You've got to coordinate with other people. But we think that that's part of the richness of what families experience when they come to Opportunity School, because if we don't know the answer, we probably have a partner who can help us with that.
Absolutely.
And I think that that makes us better as a community
Yeah.
to serve that family.
And let's talk about parents. When do they need to get that jump start on their children's education, and how can they do so?
Okay.
So as far as that jump start, and Jill had kind of mentioned this, I really think, just that being involved and
Yeah.
being, from day one, and just building that relationship with that child's teacher. So if we have a child for 5 years, there's going to be ups and downs, sometimes in those relationships, but really building that good communication with Opportunity School, with your child's teacher, that also gives them the experience early on in a very safe place to advocate for their child. That is something that as a parent, we do their entire, school career. So being able to do it in a really safe place, I think benefits that child and that parent. So let's say just that open communication, I think, is the biggest piece of that. And a lot of times, that parent finding that time to for our teachers to come out and to do a home visit, or
Yeah.
to come to the school to meet with that teacher, or to meet with us if there is something that comes up. It's just really important. So that just staying connected, asking for help and asking for resources whenever necessary is helpful.
Yeah. And for parents who, maybe they still have their young children at home, there's lots of resources out there for parents that are, reading books to your kids, signing
Yeah.
up for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. We partner with StoryBridge.
Yeah.
So we know that learning is happening even before those children get to Opportunity School, and to really, as parents who maybe are new to childcare, or this is their first child and they don't know what, I would just encourage them to, check out, you can look at people's websites and read about them. But the best way to know is go pay them a visit.
Yeah.
Set up a tour, go look. Observe in the classrooms, watch and see how teachers and children are interacting. And, I know that there are different, there are different programs. Opportunity School isn't for every family.
Yeah.
And so you have to find what's the best fit for your family. And the way that you do that is really to do your due diligence. And we are so fortunate that we've got, incredible parents who, invest time, and we have incredible partners who come alongside families and be there to help when they need that help. So I think, one of our favorite words is intentional. Is being intentional. It's being intentional about how we care for babies. It's being intentional about how do we communicate with families. As for parents, being intentional about just understanding the environment and the school that your child is part of, and that we are looking for partnerships with families and with teachers and with other agencies that really help families.
Yeah.
Like we're all
And
on
they
the
can
same.
go with them. I think
Yeah.
that's the other piece, that, if they come to a parent cafe, and they're connected with, say, family support services, then that's not, when their child leaves and goes to a public school, they do parent cafes in the schools, and they know about those resources. So that it also helps connect those families with those different community agencies when they leave us.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. We're going to head to a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about your Valentine's cookie sales that you guys have coming up over at Opportunity School.
Okay.
Welcome back for our Heart of the High Plains series. I'm still joined with Opportunity School, and we're going to talk about their Valentine's cookie sale that they have coming up and how you guys can support that. So let's talk about it. When is it this year?
So Valentine's cookie sale, it's the best pink box of cookies that you'll ever have. But it's something that Opportunity School's been doing for, over 2 decades. And it's really, yes, we raise some money, but it's also a friend raiser. It's a way that we let people know in the community. So we will start taking orders online on our website. And then since Valentine's Day falls on a Saturday this year, we'll be making those deliveries on Friday the 13th. So Friday, February 13th is when we'll make those deliveries. And so for $25, people can buy 2 dozen thumbprint cookies in a cute decorated pink box, and our volunteers will deliver those all over Amarillo and Canyon. And so it's really a wonderful way. Some businesses thank their customers with a box of Valentine's cookies from Opportunity School. We have board members that send, boxes of cookies to their family and friends or to other businesses that they work with. So, again, it's there are sponsorship opportunities. So if businesses want to be listed as a sponsor, it's $250, and we have sponsorships and then cookie sales. And then we always look for volunteers to help with those deliveries every year.
And you mentioned the box, $25. Where does that really go for Opportunity School? What does that really do for you guys?
So really through our sponsorships, we try to underwrite the cost of everything. So every box that's sold, those dollars go into Opportunity School's operating account. So it's, helps us pay for the light bill and the water bill and, all those things that are important. It provides materials for our classrooms and for our teachers. It helps us provide any materials that families may need, when we go out and do our home visits, making those connections with other agencies. So those dollars, every dollar that we raise from a box of cookies goes right back into our operations. And we thank, the sponsors are help us underwrite the cost. We have a baking partner. United helps us out, and they do such a beautiful job every year. And so, again, it's a way to thank someone, to show them that you love them, but it's also a good way to share the news about Opportunity School as well.
And let's talk about parents. If they're watching this, they want to get that jump start and learn more about Opportunity School. How can they do so?
The best way to do that is really just to get online. Like Joe was saying, you can get online and learn a lot about Opportunity School, and just you can fill out an interest form, an application online. But you can also, the best way too is just to call and just say, hey, can I come do a tour? Can we look around and look in the classrooms and meet the directors? We have great directors and assistant directors at both of our campuses. So just to connect and learn more about Opportunity School.
And one of the other things I think I want to make a plug for this, because it's fairly new for us, is Opportunity School has the only Nature Explorer certified outdoor classrooms.
Wow.
And so, yes, they're playgrounds, but they look differently. It's really about helping children feel safe in a natural environment and to have beautiful natural materials to play with and run around. And, a lot of our families, may not have a fenced backyard or a safe place where children can go out and play. And so we've really, because we know that it's healthy to be outdoors for our mental health, for our physical health, that we really wanted to promote that at Opportunity School. And so one of the things that, we don't look like a typical childcare center because our outdoor spaces are really magical. They're a little brown right now. But in the spring and the summer, we have,
they're a lot prettier.
they're a lot prettier. And
Yeah.
we've got a great outdoor garden classroom where the kids get to go out and, pick tomatoes and cucumbers and,
Yeah.
plant flowers and, all those kinds of things. And so,
We have some great collaborations. The food bank comes out and helps with
Yeah.
our garden program, and then also Texas AgriLife comes out and they do lessons on gardening and plants and healthy eating and that kind of thing also
Yeah.
with our kiddos in the spring and the summer.
Perfect. And as we wrap this up, I'm gonna ask you guys, what does Opportunity School mean to you?
wow. So I have been a working mom my
Yeah.
whole career. So when I learned about Opportunity School and first served on the board, I've got 4 kids, so my kids were always in different kinds of childcare. I really came to appreciate how hard this work is and how important it is. I always say I'm a much better mom since I came to Opportunity School, and
Yeah.
I truly believe that. It is what I hope for and I wish for all of our families and all of our working parents, that they feel really good and encouraged about the childcare that they have access to, and that should be for any family,
Yeah.
not just families who can maybe afford something more. It's important for all families.
And the same question to you, what does Opportunity School mean to
I
you?
think for me, it really is about appreciating the value of early childhood. They said, there's a lot of discussion sometimes about older kids and elementary and that kind of thing, but really the foundations for mental health, for social emotional wellness starts prenatally and with our very youngest children. So providing a safe and a secure environment for our children and our families is just, I feel like the most important thing that we can do as a society.